It's funny, Rory. You in the invite to the meeting, the episode one, the pod fatigue sets in. And I had been thinking it's like, oh man, oh, we got to record another one. It's like, boy, I hope we can think of stuff to say. And then last night you send the photo of your wound,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh well, there we go. There's content.
So this race car project, and I just for the benefit of whoever's tuning in, 10 plus years ago, I did a 24 hours of Lemons car, endurance racing for $500 cars. And as a joke, there was a car on Jalopnik. It was this series called Project Car Hell. And the idea was like, here are two project cars that no one would ever take on. Which one are you taking on? And it was like, it was a joke. No one was supposed to buy the car, but I was like, oh, I should buy that to a Lemons car. But the listing, it was in Toronto, and it has a toolkit that's stamped USSR on it. It's a real Russian car. Like there are parts of the car that have little hammer and sickles stamped in them, and I was like, I'm buying this car. And it was in really bad shape. The floors were rusted out. It was a young couple who were driving it, and the clutch was so bad that they would try to accelerate into traffic, and it would be like a waiting game to see when they were going to get rear-ended. But they had a baby, and their neighbor kind of insisted that they sell the car. My buddy David and I drove down to get it. Probably could have got it for less than $500, but I was just so excited. And anyway, we raced it in Lemons twice, got hit pretty bad the second time, and I kind of put it away. I was moving around a lot, didn't have the wherewithal to run a Lemons program such as it is. So I stored it in 2 different cities, 5 different locations. And then finally, my buddy Camille from Hooniverse asked what I was doing with it and asked if he could have it. And I said, yeah, send a truck and you can have it. He said, I'll get it race ready and put it on the track and you can show up and drive. And so I gave it to him. He basically had it for 6 years, got some work done on it. He unfortunately removed all of my insane Soviet livery that was on there.
R.I.P.
They, there was a hammer and sickle on the hood that was like 3 feet by 3 feet, and now it's gone. But you can actually still see it because the adhesive adhered dirt to it. So now a lot of the old graphics.
A specter is haunting the Lada.
Yeah. He called me last year and was like, hey, I can't do this, I'm just never going to get to it, yada yada. So do you want it back? And I said, not really. But then he was like, well, I'm going to scrap it. And I was like, god damn it. Okay. So anyway, it came back to me. Brad Brunell from Jalopnik drove from Chicago to Boston and then up to Traverse City to drop it off to me for no reason at all. He was not going to be in the area. He just decided to do it. Through a series of kind of like conversations around town, I wanted to put a new cage in it. And then I was like, I should swap the motor. I'm going to K swap it. So I put a Honda K24A, which is like a super popular 4-cylinder, but it's kind of like a Chevy small block of 4 cylinders. It's super versatile, can make a lot of power if you want it to, very reliable. And there's a ton of support for it on the aftermarket. So you can get pop-up parts for it to make it fast. And then I decided to put an independent rear suspension in it. Now it has the actual structure of the car as the cage, and the Honda motors in it, the Subaru chassis front and rear, so Subaru brakes and suspension, and all the chassis members are Subaru stuff. So I've been trying to get this car ready to race in this local hill climb where it will not be fast, incidentally. Like it's not going to be competitive.
Well, not with that attitude, Rory.
Yeah, no, it won't. I mean, the people who are going to win will probably be 5 seconds faster in a 20-something second run. But anyway, 6 days as of today away from the actual event, and I'm fully like mentally out of gas. Like I've been staying up, I'll work and then put the kids to bed and then go out into the shop until 2 or 3 in the morning most nights, working on this thing. And because I'm very particular about how things get done, like I'm just doing it by myself. But I'm really, like I said, just at the end of my rope here and putting off this project to create a new transmission tunnel for weeks because I didn't want to get back into like cutting and welding, and I didn't want to get into like the heavy fabrication part of the car again because I've done a massive. I had the cage built by a professional because I have a family, but the rest of the car I fabricated myself, and it's been a lot of like heavy metal shaping, and built a new transmission tunnel, built a new firewall, built a new footwell, patched a bunch of the floors, like a lot of big welding
Well,
projects.
this is all stuff that you're qualified to do because you are a trained and certified engineer and metal worker, right?
YouTube certified, yeah. None of this stuff is really that complicated, and I think my whole philosophy on cars and life really is just, if somebody else can figure it out, you can probably figure it out. And I mean, I think that's more or less true. Like, would I perform a heart surgery? Probably not, but anyway, yesterday I'm doing the transmission tunnel, which involves I have these huge pieces of 5x5 sheet steel, and I don't really have a great way to cut them. And I needed to create two little inserts for the sides of the transmission tunnel. And to do that, I have to hold a big sheet of steel somewhere and cut it with an angle grinder. And I have, when I was doing a lot of the fabrication stuff, I had a system where I laid down on the ground and was kind of standing on it. This is going to sound more dangerous than it probably is. But propping it up so that it wasn't moving around, I felt pretty good safety wise about it. And like, look, none of this stuff. I do take safety pretty seriously because I've seen like I have scrolled through the results. Like if you Google angle grinder injury,
Jesus.
you will see some of the most horrific images of like guys with a 3-inch cutoff wheel buried in their face or in their crotch or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it is a massively dangerous tool. Like modern angle grinders, like if they experience enough resistance, they'll shut off. But the old timey ones, like some of the ones that I have, don't. They'll just keep cutting you. And like it's an abrasion cut. So the blade is just a really thin abrasive disc, and it will cut you. It's made to cut steel. It's made to cut iron. And I used to do more of this shit when I was younger, and I kind of like got over it and figured out like, okay, how much hot steel do you want in your eyeballs today? Like how much danger of like catching one of these things in the crotch do you want? And like I've gotten a lot better, I think, and a lot more responsible. It's like, the same thing, like having the family and like the roll cage thing. But it's also like, I think as you get older, your ability to imagine how an injury would feel gets better. Like I can really visualize catching this thing in my wrist or my neck and like how that would feel and what that would look like. And so like I said, I've gotten better. But yesterday, I just marked up this 5x5 piece of steel, leaned it up against my bandsaw, and then started cutting it at about chest level. I looked at it and I was like, okay, it's not pointed towards my face. It's not pointed toward my eyes. The big risk is that the blade will explode because they're a fibrous disc, and they explode and they'll shoot pieces of blade everywhere. And I think they spin at like 15,000, 10,000 RPM, something like that. So anyway, I pointed away from my face and started cutting. And again, like usually I would have two hands on the thing and with a super strong grip. So if it kicked, I had a hold of it, wouldn't fly off. But for whatever reason yesterday, I had reached out with one hand. I think I was holding the other piece of steel with my left hand. I had the angle grinder in my right hand, and it caught an edge and whipped back out of my hand, hit me right below my left nipple, roughly, and sliced all the way down to like the silver skin. So like if you've ever like cut a piece of meat and you get that like thick layer of skin that sits between the outer skin and the muscle, cut all the way down to there and kind of created a valley, and then wrapped up in my shirt, luckily, and I grabbed it obviously from the tail end, pulled it, and it was still spinning, still tearing my shirt.
Jesus.
Anyway, I looked down. There was no blood because the cool thing about a cutoff wheel, is, like I said, it's an abrasive. So it cauterized everything immediately. So the heat from the spinning cauterized it. And basically now I look like I've had half of a top surgery.
I was gonna say it's right there. It's sick. That's like the. It's super cool.
So yeah, I'll have that scar for the rest of my life. Hopefully it doesn't heal in a way where it like stays a valley. Like I'm hoping it kind of closes up or spreads open or something where like doesn't have little lips. Cause like right now it looks like a little mouth. Really horrifying.
No, it's great. Now you both have a cool scar. So now I just have to make enough Patreon money to get top surgery, and we'll all have cool scars.
Yeah.
It's great. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Now, are you gonna have to wear a T-shirt to bed for like a couple of weeks and be, oh, honey, don't worry about it, so that she doesn't ask you about where the fuck that came from?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does Christina like it?
Well, no. So the wife and kids were outside. Christina saw it happen.
No.
Kids were outside, and it was very somewhat upsetting. I think it wasn't that the kids didn't see it happen, and like by the time everybody got there, I had it, back under control, so to speak. But it's funny. I've gotten so much better about the safety thing, and I always joke, and like I think it's kind of like a running joke in Shade Tree, like home mechanic circles, of like all the sketchy shit you've done, and like all the dumb things that you've done when it's like, okay, I just have to get this done. I don't have time to take this as seriously as I should. I'm just gonna fucking cut it or whatever. And I want to say that was like a wake up call, and I won't do that stuff again. But I kind of feel like I will. I just like I hate to say, like, in some ways I'm not a really stupid guy, but in this particular way, it's just like I don't know. I guess I won't do that specific thing again. I think I'm a little bit scared straight on angle grinder specifically, just because like that was whatever 12 inches from hitting me in the neck. It could have easily sliced my wrist while I was trying to wrestle it off my chest or whatever. So it could have gone a lot worse. Would have really like it was 2, maybe 3 inches from hitting me in the nipple, which would have been fucking awful. Like
Yeah, man, you don't want that.
they would have hurt so bad. Like the feeling of like you're wearing the wrong shirt and it kind of like chafes on your nipple for a day and you're like, fuck, this is uncomfortable. It's like imagine that, but just like you ground your nipple off. Like that would have been painful.
One person on this call spent I don't know how many years up on stage for hours at a time in a dress shirt, moving around a lot. I feel like probably has more experience with the dangers of getting physically attacked by your shirt for several hours than any of us.
It's happened.
Yeah.
It's happened. It's happened where, yeah.
But I also like right here, I'm like looking at this and I'm thinking of like the number of things that I have cut that I'm looking at where I like held the thing in my left hand and used the angle grinder in my right hand. It's just like, I think part of it too is that like my shop is super disorganized because I'm just in thrash mode where usually I try to keep everything clean and organized and like I can get to a vise, I can get to whatever. But like right now it's just everything is happening on a very tight timetable. So I'm just like improvising a ton. And like you read the reports, like the OSHA reports or whatever, and it's like, what happened? It's like, well, the guy was really tired and he was thrashing to get something done on a tight deadline and he fucking cut all of his fingers off or is now mutilated permanently. So I don't know. It's like I will probably be a little bit more aware of the angle grinder danger.
The thing is, I mean, I think we all do this. You get into a project and you feel like you have to do everything yourself, and it's all on you. And when in fact, there are people around that can help, and you can call on those people. And I mean, you do have 2 lovely daughters who would probably be totally great holding those sheets of steel for you while you cut them up.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
That's a really good point. I should employ the children. They were have 2 daughters, and one of them is a little bit more precocious than the other. And the older one, the sweeter one, was like, "Oh, I need to give you a hug." She was like, "I felt so scared. I have to hug you." Okay. And the younger one was like, "Can I touch it? Can I put this in it?" No.
See, that's what I actually imagine how that would work would be you and your older daughter holding the steel while the younger one actually is cutting is wielding the angle grinder.
Yeah, I mean we're probably not too far off from that.
She's what, 5, right?
But I was like, I looked at her and I was like, your fingers are so gross. Like, it's not.
Yeah, you got to wash your hands. You got to wash your hands, girl.
Wash first. Yeah.
Before you stick them in daddy's open wound.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't. Interesting. I mean, we'll see. We could put some pictures in the description if everybody wants to see the wound.
Yeah, well, I feel like that would be a good enticement for the Patreon. Yeah, that'll be exclusive subscriber content.
Yeah, man, it's a mess. It's like I said, there are worse scars to have. I'm glad it didn't hit me in the face, but this is going to be a really ugly one for a long time.
Getting into gory Scarrow mode a little early this
Yeah.
year.
That's right.
At my I was running Gizmodo last year, and there was a special Slack channel called Narchan, where it was like everybody would post bad Nar, like injuries or whatever. And I was always like, should I post my own stuff in there? And it's like, probably not really. Like, I'm the boss. I have to like,
I was gonna say the boss is posting his gore.
yeah. And it's like, I have to maintain, like, people who work there are very smart and for the most part pretty serious journalists, and I need to like maintain kind of a level of like credibility with them. Like, they can't know I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah, that could end up in HR. I feel like.
It's asserting dominance on nerds to show them that you know how to do stuff in a garage.
Yeah, they were not super impressed with any of that stuff. I gotta tell you. Like, do you need money? Do you need money? Do you need some help paying for a mechanic? Because I'm sure someone can arrange that. I'm sure there's a local charity who would do this for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm so weirdly excited to be done with this car. I think like this has been the dumbest project. And I knew it was going to be dumb. I knew it was going to be expensive and hard, like pointless. But the degree to which it is expensive, hard, and pointless is shocking to me.
That's good though, man. That's growth. That is you always want to be leveling up. You want to be continually topping
Yeah.
topping your previous I was going to say topping yourself. That sounds weird. But exceeding your
I went away for a second. I'm back.
Yeah. The thing is like it is growth if you learn a lesson. And if you don't learn a lesson, it's just a fuck up. And like I guess I would probably do this again. I guess I would probably take on a project like this again, and probably it will be worse. But
I would hope so. Don't let one setback,
2 year setbacks. I think that like something like a small block trip-on or something equally stupid, maybe big like limousine or something. Hopefully, I can do the Soviet auto industry proud by creating a absolute monster of a Lada.
Yeah, man. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Got a few more things to figure out, and I'm a little slower around the shop with my gaping chest wound.
Yeah. You need the camera crew. You need it's how all those shows work, where it's like the garage reality shows. You're up against it. We got to make this happen. We got 24 hours.
We're gonna lose the shot. Actually, if there was a camera crew, I would be so much safer here because
It's true.
it is so embarrassing to say that I did what I did with angle grinder yesterday, and I think like I'm only saying it because maybe there's a lesson in it for someone. No, I'm saying because it's funny, but there's no fucking way I would let someone catch that shit on camera. I would be like Mr. OSHA with my glasses on and my like
Right.
I'd have another person witnessing and like putting a check on a notepad saying it's okay for me to operate the angle grinder.
Right.
But yeah, just in front of my family, I can do whatever I want. Just to be a total fucking man.
Maybe you need to set up a cam in the corner and just stream it. Have like a Twitch stream or whatever. Rory's garage.
That's a good idea, actually. People would, I think, be really into that.
You can monetize that.
You get hit by the grinder, just the whole chat just fills up with emotes.
Hearts.
A little angle grinder with a funny eyes, just looking at just like dancing around.
Yeah.
Blood spurting.
Rory moment. Ding 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 ding.
Actually, funny. Now that I'm thinking about this, the night before that, I have a little tiny angle grinder that is a great tool. I don't know, it's probably 12 inches long and the blade is 3 inches. And I don't even remember what I was doing, but I like just touched my left knuckle with the blade of the angle grinder. and it created like this little tiny slit that's maybe like 1/16 of an inch long, and it like burned and cauterized in it. And I was like, oh, that's what it looks like when you hit your skin with the angle grinder. I was like, that's not that bad. It didn't even bleed. Foreshadowing. It's like maybe I can be a little more cavalier with the angle grinder now that I know. But yeah, like I said, if you look up that Google search, you will see it can bleed quite a lot if you get into one of the big blood vessels. That's really horrifying. Like I said, do not look that up unless you're really excited about seeing a guy with his face literally split in half. Like my own little faces of death video.
Yeah.
I've watched videos on Instagram where like you see a guy in a machine shop and you're like, oh, I know what's coming. Like I know
Right.
what's gonna happen to this fucking idiot. And it's like, oh, his t-shirt's dangling around, or like
Sure.
glove on. I know what he's doing wrong, and he loses his arm or his hand or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that guy's a moron or whatever. And it's like, well, it happens. I think everybody knows a machinist or a tradesman who has a couple of digits or one insane scar or several insane scars.
Oh yeah.
Pretty common.
I've started doing sort of like weaponized like incompetence at the shop now when we have machines that don't have guards. Like I'll take my feet all the way away from the pedals and I'll be like, "Hey boss, how's it going?" and put my hand directly into the pinch point and she'll look, she's like 70 years old and she's worked there for like her whole life and she'll see me do that and she'll go, "No!" like I'm a dog, and then she'll make a guard and put it on the machine. But I'm saving someone else who doesn't think about like there needs to be a guard on here.
Some people seem to take a ton of pride in the stuff they're manufacturing, and some people do not give a shit at all. And I have a garage full of stuff that will never go on the car, that will never fit, that I can't sell on eBay because it's just junk. And I also have a separate pile in the garage of stuff that I've paid a ton of money for before realizing will not fit on the car because I ordered it wrong because I didn't know. No one's ever done this before. I think that's the big lesson about the Lada is like there's a flag that they sell online that has become like popular at Lemons, and that says we didn't do this because it would be easy. We did this because it would be
Thought
easy.
it would be easy.
Right. Yep.
And I think like to me, I was like, oh, there's a company that makes stuff to swap a Honda K24 into a BRZ. So I will just build a BRZ chassis in my car, and then it will be easy to swap a Honda K24 into the chassis, which is, in fact, the case. It is remarkably easy to put the motor in the chassis. That was like a few day process. Everything else has been a fucking nightmare. And like nobody, when you call the company that makes this stuff and you say, hey, I'm swapping a K motor, and they're like, oh, great. Are you swapping it into a CRX? And you're like, no. And then they say, are you swapping it into an Integra? Say, no.
No, keep guessing.
Is it a BMW E30? No. Subaru BRZ? Kind of. And then you have to try to explain what you're doing, and you can just hear them go dead on the phone where they're like, yeah, we don't do that. We don't do anything like that. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll just spend 6-8 hours looking at my computer trying to figure out an interchange for this, or trying to figure out like where this sensor comes from. It's been good. It's like it's I think good for my mental health, and like certainly if you want to test the strength of your various relationships, this is great for that. Build a house and then immediately spend like an absurd amount of several thousand, tens of thousands of dollars building a $500 car. I think that
Yeah. I want to tease out the good for your mental health
yeah, sure.
part of that.
Yeah.
It's good to be busy.
Better than therapy.
Yeah. I mean, I do like, that's the thing is that people are like, oh, what do you do for fun? It's like, I like to fly fish and I like to sail around. I have like a cheap little sailboat that I got from an old guy. And they're like, oh, but you work on cars. You spend a lot of time working on cars. And it's like, I don't know if I would say that I like it at this point. Yeah, I've been doing it like in my early 20s. I was buying cars that I couldn't afford to keep up. I had an Audi 90 Quattro 20 valve, and I couldn't afford to take it to a mechanic. I had been burned. Previously I had a Volkswagen GTI Mark II that I had taken to a mechanic, and he did a bunch of unauthorized work on it and tried to charge me for it. And I was like, okay, fuck this. I'm never doing this again. And he was a good mechanic. He was like super well regarded, and he was like, in hindsight, like he was the guy all the SCCA guys went to in that town. But I just felt like he was trying to screw me, and it was like I'm never interacting with these people ever again. And like, so I started fixing my own cars and like learning. This is like pre-YouTube, so it's like buying the shop manual or like looking at forums or whatever and trying to figure it out. And like that's how I got by. I think like I've probably paid a mechanic to do a couple of wheel alignments, and there was one thing on my wife's car that we were moving and I just didn't have time to get to. But you know, less than 5 times in 20 years. And I think like every single, you know, it's like, okay, you need a new timing belt and water pump. I had that Lexus GX, tore the whole engine apart, like put all that back together, and none of it is fun. I don't think I get a sense of like satisfaction per se out of it. It's cost me a ton of sleep. It's very stressful. I don't know that I actually saved a ton of money overall. You know, like I think like, you know, probably a few $1,000s here and there, but I think it really comes down to like not trusting mechanics and knowing like the kind of stuff that goes on in a lot of mechanic shops where it's like I can't depend on your work, I don't think. And I know there are
Yeah.
like some really good mechanics in my town who would do a good, if not better job than I would do. But just mentally, it's like I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, if this breaks, I will send it to a mechanic in my head, and then it breaks, and I can't do it. It's like, okay, that timing belt water pump thing was like I knew that was due. I didn't know it was going to be due as soon as it was, but it's like when this happens, I will send it off to a mechanic. But then I was like, okay, are they going to be putting a Toyota OEM water pump in? Probably not. Are they going to be putting, you know, OEM? It's like, does it need to have that? No, it's a 200,000 mile.
Right. No, it's just that classic thing if you want something done right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the reason that I have a new car and I change the oil myself instead of bringing it to the dealership because I've heard and read so many terrible stories of the dealerships fucking it up, you know, and just putting the wrong, it's like a weird oil spec and they put in the wrong grade of oil and or just your car comes back fucked up. It's like,
Yeah, man.
no thanks.
You roll the dice. I mean, Jiffy Lube, they'll hold up the oil and you can kind of watch them out there. You're like, that looks right. But sometimes they, you know, crack your dipstick tube in half because you go there at 7 a.m. There's only one guy there.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you're like, and they're like, oh, was Roger the only guy working last time when you were here? Yeah, we've talked to him about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
I went to like AutoZone or whatever, I forget which place around here, just to get like a crush washer for the you know for the drain plug, and I hadn't taken it off yet, so I didn't have the sample thing. I just figured, you know, I can just go there and tell them what the car is, and they would look it up. And he's just, oh, just put these plastic ones, they're fine, you know. He says, so I work on cars, man, it's cool. And I don't think I trust that. I think I'm just gonna go to the dealer and just buy like the actual correct thing. It probably, I don't know, maybe the plastic one is fine, but it did not seem trustworthy.
Yeah, I do that too. I hate to say, and like I, you know, as a kid, I'd have been like, oh, what do I have in the shop right now for a crush washer? Like, you know, I'm not
Right.
fucking figure this out. But now it's I've become a total, like I have all the little, I don't have that car anymore. I have all these little packages that are like Toyota OEM crush washers, and they're like,
Right. I grew up in a house. I mean, my dad is a mechanic, and in our garage, he had a workbench. He had a giant toolbox full of his airplane mechanic tools. So a ton of like really specialized things. You know, this thing is just designed to reach this one nut on a, you know, CFM 356 jet engine or whatever turbofan. But he also had all these baby food jars, which I think about it now and I just think those must have been baby food from when my brother and I were babies, and they saved those. And and you just turn them into underneath a shelf, and the lid is screwed into the bottom of the shelf, and each one is full of washers or bolts or nuts or just things of standard size. And so whatever he was working on, everything was always right there at hand. It was so organized, and not like in a overly fussy way, but it was just that was his job. That's what he did, and so he wanted his home kind of office to work the same way. And never in my entire life have I had anything remotely approaching that. And I feel like it's been one of the biggest barriers for me of working on my own cars is just never having a setup. Always working out of like a tiny garage or no garage, just in the driveway, and just having a little toolbox that just has a ton of shit just thrown in it, and one little socket set that I bought at some point, for $50. And that's so I'm always just kind of starting from this half-assed point. And even now, when it's such an ordeal just to get all the shit out of the garage, just to do an oil change or to swap out the winter tires for the summer tires on my car or my wife's car. It's the kind of thing that, I mean, for those 2 years that we were living in Charlotte in this suburban house that was so fucking depressing in every other way, but the one part of it was that, that was incredible, was it had a real garage. It had a 2-car garage, and it had a refrigerator in the garage. I mean, this was like a rented house, and so it had the actual beer fridge in the garage. And I never felt more like a grown-up, like it's like, oh, I finally have ascended to the level where I'm 40 whatever years old, and I finally have reached a lifestyle commensurate with that of my parents, but that didn't last. And even then it was, I mean, we didn't live there long enough for me to really put together any kind of setup. But now it's just, yeah, it's just an ordeal. I have to go down to the basement to pull up my it's just a massive disincentive to do more of the kind of stuff that I would like to do. And also, I mean, as interested as I am in doing it, I don't think I'm particularly good. I'm really good at, it's the thing where I'm really great at taking stuff apart and really bad at putting it back together,
I will say, like, on the baby food jar thing, I don't throw anything away. I have, like, even now I have like a pile of sheet metal next to me and a transmission. But it's like, I can tell when things are going really well for me in the shop, because I will need something and I'll walk over to my little spares. I have, like, on the wall, I have like a set of drawers with hardware. And like, things are going well for me if I go to the hardware drawer. And
right. No, that's the thing. You have a mental map. You know where the stuff is, and that's exactly what I do not have, because so much time elapses in between me doing stuff, and the state of the garage is constantly, my wife is always putting stuff in the garage. So however the garage was left the last time I found it, there's shit just piled on top of that stuff now that I have to dig through, and I have no recollection of where did I even leave that part, that thing that I need. How do I get back to that? And then I just forget that I had it to begin with, right?
Yeah, if you have a project for more than a few weeks, you really have to start over, I think. Even if I'm like pretty set up, like, it's happening in your mind and you're imagining what the next steps are, and if you pause for a second, it can just, for me, it just goes away. But like, I remember, like, when I first started working on cars, I was staying at my parents' driveway. And then when my college, I remember working at Audi, I guess it was immediately post-college, and I was in a gravel driveway in the snow, and I like replaced the fuel system underneath the car without a jack. I just laid underneath
Incredible.
the car. Like,
wait, what kind of car was this?
Audi 90 Quattro 20 valve. So it was like
How did you get under? How did you fit underneath that car?
Yeah, so
without jacking it up?
You could park under, like, find a place where there had been a puddle and there's like a little depression, and you could kind of wiggle yourself down into there.
My man was in the trenches.
I did not a particular job, but I did often work on the car just with the tire jack underneath it, which is like, talk about,
no, that's the number one. Even
God.
I know.
Yeah.
You better at least go and get the $20 Harbor Freight suicide jack stands.
Well, you can do that, and then I would always put the the tire, put one. If I was taking a tire off, you put one tire down under the body.
I've done it. I've done it.
But I remember doing that. I remember I had a little 2-car garage that I worked out of in Traverse City. That was kind of chaotic. And then I've had like various warehouse setups where, if it wasn't organized, at least I had space. And like that was a big part of moving to this current house, which otherwise, maybe is not totally for me. But I think it's got a big barn, and then it's got like this, where I am right now is like a 40 by 60 shop. And there's like, the day we closed on it, I put a lift in it. I have a few toolboxes that are like big rolling toolboxes that have all my stuff in them, and everything's generally pretty well organized. Though I had somebody in the shop the other day helping with his car, and I can't find a 10 millimeter
The classic.
thing. Like I had, I guess when I had that 2-car garage, I had a lot of friends would come over and wrench on their stuff, and I was constantly losing tools. And I was like, when I moved into the shop, I was like, I'm never fucking doing that again. No one's touching any of my shit. And like the other night, like I lost a 12 millimeter socket, and it derailed me for 3 hours. Like I took the entire shop apart trying to find it, and I was like, I cannot get my head back to working on this car until I find this thing. And I finally, like, I ordered another one, like just a single loose socket from SK. It was like $20 to ship it here, and then looked in my pants pocket, and it was in there.
Incredible.
I could have put the sealed envelope to my forehead and predicted that you were going to
Yeah,
say that
yeah.
because I've been there. I have done that.
It was in my pants pocket. But I think
I don't understand why socket sets just don't come with 10 millimeter sockets, and five 12s.
Yeah.
It should just be standard.
Yeah, this is actually it's an SK S-frame ratcheting wrench, which I don't think they make anymore. And I stole it. I didn't steal it, but it was when we were at Auto Week, we had this deal with SK for our DIY issue where it was like we would give away sets of these wrenches. They're a new wrench. They're super cool. They're in the shape of an X. So like the body of the wrench is an X, like they're hollowed out on either side. And the big like selling point is they have super fine teeth on the ratcheting end, so you don't need a lot of degree of movement to get a bolt loose. Super cool. But we had like 4 or 5 sets of them. I think we gave all but one set away, and then we were selling Auto Week to Hearst. I think in like 2019, and it was sitting in we had this closet called the Graft Closet, where it's like if anybody got anything particularly good for on a press trip, you were supposed to put it in the Graft Closet. So there were like carbon fiber helmets and like leather bags, and like there's like one incident supposedly back in the old days where someone was given like a watch, like a Heuer watch or something, and
Wow.
I left it in there until they quit, and then went in there and got it. Like,
I was gonna say, I mean, what does the stuff just go in there and never come out? I mean, it seems like at some point, like once a year, everybody should be able to just go in there and just pick something.
when we moved out, we had an absurd, like, it would have been really cool. Like, if you were like a regular car enthusiast who didn't have access to this stuff, it's like 20 years of like gifts for like,
Yeah.
it was like a neat thing. And most of it got given away or thrown away or whatever. We ended up like, letting employees from the building where we worked come through and grab stuff. And but this wrench set was in there like when we were like 2 days away from moving out, and I was like, we need to give this away to a reader. Someone figure this out. Like somebody put a contest up on Twitter or whatever, like we'll give it away. And then nobody did. And then finally, like at the end, I was like, look, I think it was like the final week, I was like, if this isn't gone at the end of the week, I'm taking it home. And I ended up taking it home. It's like a $400 ratchet set or ratcheting wrench set. But point is, now I can't find one of them. And it's like, I don't think I can buy it. I don't think I can buy the loose 10 millimeter. And it is like, it is, you probably hear my voice. Like it's giving me real anxiety right now.
It's got to be somewhere. It's somewhere in there.
Probably one of my pockets, actually. Yeah, Graft Closet, man. That's a really wild. Like, we don't do that anymore, and like nobody does that now. And like the stuff that automotive, like auto companies, feel comfortable like handing to journalists. Like I remember there was a major scandal, 2013, 24. It was like when the iPad first came out, and an automaker had a journalist in a big room. Everyone was sitting in everybody's sitting in a chair, and underneath your chair there was a new iPad with the product presentation loaded up on it.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
We can't
Nice.
take that. Like, or like people would just leave them there. So like you'd use it and just like, sorry, I'm not comfortable taking this. And like,
Mm. But did some people take them?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like, and now it's total, like everybody takes that shit. Like it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, headphones. And like I said, there was a program a few years ago where it was a sports car. I think it was at Laguna Seca, and it was like, hey, what's your helmet size? We're going to make you a custom Stilo
Wow.
carbon fiber helmet with your name on it. Like,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't think there was a single trip that when I was doing stuff for you at Auto Week that I didn't come home with something.
yeah,
We have a really plush giant Maserati towel
yeah,
that that I think now lines the crate of our dogs, where our dog sleeps. Um, but I mean, it's a nice towel, and I mean, I feel like at some point they figured out, oh, we can just put all the promo stuff on a flash drive. So then it just became the thing of like ever more kind of jewel like flash drives, right? Here's one where it's brushed aluminum or whatever. But that Land Rover thing, I still have like and I still wear it. They issued us like these pants that I just think of them as action pants. But what do they call them? They're like climbing pants, like outdoorsman pants, like those kind of.
like cool KUHL is a big thing for automakers to give away.
Yeah, this one it was like a Swedish brand that starts with an H. I feel like I've never seen it outside of this context, but I've looked it up. But it's just like it's whatever, this kind of Nordic European take on basically like those pants that you see middle-aged or older guys wearing on flights, like travel pants. Now that's kind of become a whole kind of cottage industry, I feel like. But um but those were just issued to me along with this fleece that was like really warm and had a Land Rover badge on it, but also had my name embroidered into it, Peter Hughes. And and those things, I still wear those. I mean, at some point those action pants just became my bus. That's what I would wear on the tour bus, and because they were just comfortable and kind of all weather and waterproof, and I looked like a complete douche, but I didn't care. Um, yeah, there's been some kind of useful swag over the years.
Funny because if you go on a lot of press trips, you'll see journalists, and it's like their entire getup is shit.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh, of course.
my suitcase, my backpack, my laptop.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of parallels between that kind of autojourno swag world and the kind of indie rock festival circuit swag world, because when you play, especially this might be less. I feel like this may be less the case now than it was kind of in the heyday of kind of late aughts and early teens, kind of hipster runoff era in peak indie. But when you would go and play Lollapalooza or these, any of these other festivals, they would have just like whole huge swag tents where you go in there and they give you, oh, here's some Vans, here's some Onitsuka Tiger shoes, here's some sunglasses, just all this kind of goofy crap, and I would line up for all of it, right? It's like I'm all in, It's like, hey, if we're here doing this cheesy shit,
We're at the trough. I'm eating.
exactly, man. It's like I'm
That's
I'm
fucking
I'm
right.
I'm maxing it out, and oh, there's an amazing picture of me coming back from from doing this the year that we played Lollapalooza. I think it was like 2010 or 2011, and I just came back just like just with this, wearing this ridiculous cowboy hat and sunglasses and holding a Budweiser. Everything was Budweiser, and I mean, it's just like the most comical, obnoxious, horrible corporate whore kind of kind of thing.
I can see though why companies obviously do that. Like they want cool, hot musicians to be photographed wearing their shit on stage.
Of course, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and everywhere. I mean, from that point on, every time you would see one of the bands, if you cross paths with one of these bands 6 months later or a year later at a different venue or a different festival or whatever, everybody's wearing their, are those your festivals? I called them festival shoes. Oh, dude, I remember I got some of those too.
But that's the thing. I was like, yeah, if I'm Vans, I want these hot, like cool musicians wearing my shit. I don't know why but of journalists wearing your shit. Like that's the worst.
That's true. Yeah.
See those guys walk around, and I'm one of them. But it's like they're not hot and cool for the most part. They're guys like me, really, which is not what you want. But
not anymore. Not anymore, Rory. It's a different world, and the automotive influencer. I think that's a topic for a future episode.
Yeah, I would have to do some research into those guys because I don't really know a ton about it. But yeah, I think we should talk about those guys. But I think I don't think there's ever been a time when automotive journalists were cool. I have to say.
See, I disagree. I mean, as somebody who I mean, when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, and completely obsessed with early 80s, there it is, early 80s Car and Driver. That was kind of the lens through which I discovered the larger world, and I thought there was nobody on earth cooler than than, than those people. Gene Lindemood and David E. Davis Jr. and Don Sherman and Chaba Chetta and Larry Griffin and Rich Seppos and all those people, like.
And I won't say anything specific about any of those people, but it's like I know all those people now.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're not that cool. But what's funny is like I do that with you with musicians, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was really into this band, and you'll tell me a story about somebody, I'll be like, oh man, what an asshole. And it's like, I bet we could do a whole episode where it's like me telling you musicians I like, and you telling me why they're bad, and you telling me you like, and me telling you why they're bad. Just really,
that'll be a subscriber only episode.
and I think like Gene Jennings is cool. And there are a lot of those people who are like genuinely, I don't think cool in the same way that a rock musician are cool. Like they're not cool like you see them on the street and you know that they're cool. They're like nice people.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean that's my measure of cool.
And I'm going to name names. One of these episodes, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you every story about that I've heard of them, like totally unsourced, like backdoor, like, yeah, this person was mean to a flight attendant, or this person was a dick at a lemons race, or whatever. Like, we're gonna hear it all. But it's
kick ass.
Yeah.
Higher Patreon tier.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna get everyone canceled in automotive journalism and indie rock.
Yeah, that's the mission of this podcast.
We're burning every bridge.
Yep. Just fucking over all of our longtime friends. Episode 3, the Dave Grohl episode. What's going on? Boy.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, this is. I kind of had this in mind as being the episode where we introduce ourselves and kind of talk about the the mission of the pod, but I actually kind of like this better. I also like the fact that we like the credits come at the end. There's no you
Intro.
know yeah, there's no just
Do you want to do an intro now?
no. I think we should save that for next time. And because I think this was a fun convo, and I think we can kind of leave it here, and keep people in suspense about the mission of this podcast. And
Episode 250, and we're gonna be like, all right, next time we're gonna do the mission.
yeah, this is why we did this and what we had in mind. But
No, it's great. It's going to be our running arc of the pod instead of like, we're going to get to the rat and owl seance at some point, but it's us being like, sometime we're going to introduce ourselves. We'll get there.
Yeah, next time. I think next time for sure.
you know what?
Yeah.
But at this point, people know who we are, and that's good enough.
Peter, do you want to at some point in a future episode do a eulogy for the Saab project car?
I mean, that's TBD, but yeah, at some point there will be a eulogy for it. Yeah, I guess we could just say publicly, if anybody wants a 1988 Saab SPG that is undrivable and needs an entire new Saab SPG, basically driven underneath it, and have the existing car plopped on top of that, kind of like you might do with a Lada and a Subaru.
Theoretically, could you just take a bare? I can't believe I'm fucking saying this.
Theoretically, you can do all kinds of things. Yeah,
Could a guy who is not me take a regular 900 shell,
yeah,
do stuff on it, and then have
yep, yeah. Of course. I mean, there's a million ways to do it, and all of this has been suggested to me, and yeah, I've talked, yeah, everybody I talked to about it. Oh yeah, man, that's no problem. You just cut out the bottom of the car, and it's a pan swap. It's a pan swap. That's Sam Smith's phrase, right? It's pan swap, and everybody that talks about it, and my friend Justin here locally in Rochester, and who does all this kind of equally lunatic, crazy shit, and has a. We'll get him on the pod at some point, because he's a funny guy, and equally mentally ill, but equal to us in this way. But yeah, everybody makes it sound like a trivial thing, and yeah, you just weld in and for me it's like, well, okay, can I give it to you to do it? Because I can't do that. That's
yeah. Be done with a lot of here in a minute.
uh-huh.
I'll get Porsche done, get the Jeep done,
Mm-hmm.
truck done. But it's like I could grab Peter's SPG, put it on a trailer, put it in the barn for a couple of years, and then simply
It'd just be on deck. Yeah, it could be on deck. It's just sitting in my driveway. The cat sits on it. The cat prefers this. It has a cover on it that's now like completely threadbare and has holes in it. But yeah, it's just taking up space, and I'm ready to have it be gone from there. And also the fact that kind of during pandemic, I got really excited about, all right, we're gonna swap this. We're gonna do this pan swap, and so I ripped the entire interior out of the car. And as anybody who's ever done this is well aware, and I think the point has been made elsewhere. It's amazing how much stuff fits into a car when it's all put together, and then when you take it apart and take it out, the amount of space that it takes up increases by fourfold, right? So I now have this tiny little one car garage that is off the back of our house. It's just the entire back half of it is completely full of Saab interior, which I'd love to just not have that there anymore either.
Yeah, I think I could. I think I could do it.
That's going to be the pod arc 2026. Is Rory and Peter get back into the SPG?
Yeah, well, yeah, possibly 26. Possibly, there's a lot of stuff in line ahead of it. But also,
Being
if
optimistic.
somebody else listening wants to take this on and save us and specifically Rory, the 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 hassle of doing that, you'd be welcome to it. So that's just putting that out there.
Plea for someone to please adopt the SPG. If someone out there, please bring a trailer. Please bring a trailer. Please bring a trailer.
Peter's car, so that I don't end up getting Peter's car. I can feel the sensation right now.
It's yeah, no, it's the irresistible bad idea, and it's the siren call. It's don't look back, man. Don't look. Everybody have a good day and stay tired.